Let me guys know. Very wealthy, very well known, very blah blah blah. I've just been reading a lot. I read a lot of books in March or April. And she wrote Hi everyone, it's Audrey and welcome back to Chapter and Converse. Today's video is going to be just like a little bit of a catch up of kind of like what I'm reading, some new books that are coming out, what I'm watching, a couple books that I bought, but I just thought I would do a little bit of a catch up video, which I had done maybe like a month or so, and thought it was just sort of like a fun way to kind of do a little bit of a catch up, keep it a little bit informal. As you can probably tell, I still am living my worst life when it comes to either being sick or just like being knocked out by whatever sort of allergy pollen thing is happening in the world right now. I can't even tell you, I have not been this affected by allergies since I was a kid, and this year is just knocking me sideways. So the sad truth is I think I'm probably going to sound like this for the next month, despite whatever Claritin or cold medicine that I'm taking. So bear with me, please. Sorry I sound kind of like a frog. And I also wanted to welcome anyone who's new to the channel. This is the first video I'm filming since Krista from Books and Jams did her shout out video. So thank you again, Krista, for highlighting me and putting me in such good company with other booktubers. And I know a lot of people hopped over to my channel because of that video. So thank you to everyone who did pop by, check me out. If you subscribed, thanks for subscribing. If you're just watching, thanks for watching. But I did want to do a big thank you to everybody, and especially to Krista for putting me, like I said, in such good company and for helping some other people find me. So let's just dive into it, and sort of in no particular order, let's just kind of talk about what I've been up to. So I thought I'd start off with what I'm reading right now, and that is The Chalk Man by C.J. Tudor. And this is a book that I've had on my shelf for a little bit. I bought it last year at a book outlet haul based on April from Getting Hooga With It's recommendation. And it's mystery thriller. It's likened to Stephen King's It, which I haven't actually read, so I'm just going off what other people say. But I think that's because it focuses on a group of kids. It's 5 kids. And this is told in 2 different time frames. So it starts in 1986 when they're 12, and then we fast forward 30 years to 2006. And the chapters are told in alternating timelines. And basically, back when they were younger, they used to communicate with each other by leaving chalk drawings on each other's driveways, so they knew like where to meet. It was like their secret code. And the kids started getting a chalk drawing which led them all into the woods where they find a dead body when they're younger. And then we sort of fast forward 30 years and they're getting messages again of the chalk drawings. And one of the friends in the group winds up getting killed. So they need to figure out kind of like who left them that message in the first place, who's leaving it now. They need to solve this mystery because obviously now their lives are threatened. So we're partway through. I'm enjoying it. It's not a huge book. It's like 250 pages. It's a quick read. I'm really enjoying the writing. Like I said, I'm not really sure where it's going, but I'm enjoying it so far. So far so good with this one. Now, I've done a few videos on some most anticipated releases coming up for this year, and there's a couple more that I saw that are coming up this summer, and it's like not enough to do a separate video, so I thought I would mention them here. And the first one is Never Look Back by Alison Gaylin. And she is an author that I have read before. I enjoy her writing, mystery thriller, of course, that's kind of my jam. And this is her new one, which comes out in July. And I don't know too much about any of these books, but this one is basically, there is like a true crime podcast, and the guy who runs the podcast reaches out, I believe, to like this journalist, and he's digging into this murder from the 70s of, I think, a couple who was murdered and it went unsolved. So that's kind of all I know. I have to say, after reading Sadie by Courtney Summers, which had that podcast element in it, I'm kind of intrigued by how they're going to do the podcast in this. I'm also sort of getting like a little bit of the feels for true crime. I read Michelle McNamara's, or I listened to an audiobook, I want to say it's I'll Find You in the Dark, which is about the Golden State Killer, which was completely fascinating. So if you haven't checked that out and you have any interest in true crime, that's a really good book. It's as much a personal story about her quest as it is about the Golden State Killer. But I think kind of that plus Sadie has sort of piqued some interest in me, so this book sounds particularly interesting. The next one is Someone We Know by Sharin Lapena. And she wrote The Couple Next Door, which I read and I really liked. And she wrote a second book, and it's embarrassing because I'm blanking on it because I just, I got it in my book outlet haul. But I really enjoyed her writing. I enjoyed some of the twists in it. I enjoyed the mystery of it. And this one is about, it's kind of like a neighborhoody story, it sounds like. So it's a small, tight-knit community. A local woman goes missing and she's found murdered. And then I think people are like, somebody's leaving notes for people about something. So again, kind of vague on what all is happening. This one comes out in July, but based on The Couple Next Door, I'm definitely intrigued to read other things that she writes. So that one is definitely on my watch list. And the last book on my list is The Family Upstairs by Lisa Jewell, which comes out in August. And she wrote Then She Was Gone, which came out last year, which was... It was a New York Times bestseller, but I would say reviews were mixed on it. So some people loved it, some people didn't. It was pitched as a thriller, which I think part of the problem is, well, there was like a bit of a mystery to it in that this teenage girl goes missing. The book opens 10 years later. She's never been found. But it's much more a study of grief and a story about grief. And I think if you're looking for like fast-paced thriller stuff, that's not happening. If you prefer to be in the dark and not kind of know the mystery, and like I say, more than the characters know, that's definitely not a book for you. I'm a big fan of Lisa Jewell. I used to read her books when she was writing chick lit and really enjoyed her stories. I like her writing style. I like her kind of turn of phrase. I like her character development. I'm completely down for whatever that she writes. And I have Watching You, which was the book that came out, I want to say like earlier this year, end of last year, which I haven't watched yet, haven't read yet, but I'm excited for anything that she puts out. So this one is definitely on my list. And the description of this one is pretty vague. It's basically, I think it's two sisters who live together in a house and they rent out a room to a seemingly nice couple. And then I think something goes horribly wrong. So I'm down for that. I'm a big fan. And yeah, so those are the books that are coming out that I have added to my watch list. So I will say the one upside of kind of feeling like crap is I finally caught up on some TV shows. I haven't been watching like a ton of it lately, just sort of between the reading that I was doing, because I was definitely reading some great books, and life just being life and not having time to do everything you want to do. But I definitely caught up on some shows. So first one, which I power watched, was Killing Eve. I had 4 episodes on my DVR. I watched them all in like one shameful sitting. But again, I was kind of stuck in bed a little bit, so what else are you gonna do? And it's season 2 is on right now on BBC America. If you don't know anything about this show, it's genius. I absolutely love it. It's season 1 is on Hulu if you haven't seen it, but it's Sandra Oh and Jodie Comer. And Sandra Oh plays kind of in season 1, she just sort of starts out in British intelligence, and she's antsy and sort of looking for something more than what it is that she's doing. She's sort of in this more kind of like routine job and winds up getting sort of drafted to this sort of secret spy contingency of British intelligence. And there is this female assassin who is just killing people all over Europe, and they are trying to find her. And her name is Villanelle. So Sandra Oh becomes the spy who is trying to catch the assassin, and it's very much sort of this cat and mouse. And then at the same time there's like a real evolution with Sandra Oh's character, where she basically just becomes obsessed with this woman and with catching her. And Villanelle, the assassin, knows that she's obviously being sought by the authorities and becomes equally obsessed with Sandra Oh's character. So none of these are spoilers. That's just sort of the premise. It's based on some novellas called Codename Villanelle. And it's this completely interesting story about these two women and sort of their mutual fascination and obsession with each other. And I don't want to give anything away at all, but it's just so unbelievably good. It is incredibly dark, there's a lot of violence to it, so if that's not your thing, this probably won't be your thing. They definitely show a lot, so it's not like a fade to black kind of a show, but it is also like wickedly funny, which you probably wouldn't expect. Sandra Oh is just amazing in this. She won, I want to say she won the SAG Award and the Golden Globe for it this year, which is completely well deserved. I can't believe Jodie Comer hasn't won anything for playing Villanelle, because she's genius in this. But it is dark, it is gritty. It sounds weird to say, but it is hysterical at moments. There's just some very like deadpan, just ridiculous lines that come out of their mouths that are just so on point and so good. But it's this amazing cast of characters. I can't wait to see where it's going this season. I'm completely invested. Like the cinematography is amazing. The costumes are amazing. It's over the top sometimes, but it's just sort of very gritty and dark at other times. Cannot say enough good things about it. So if you haven't discovered it, I couldn't recommend it more. And if you have, let me know what you're thinking of season 2, because I am loving it. So the second show that I have been gobbling up is Pretty Little Liars, The Perfectionists, which is a spin-off from the original Pretty Little Liars. And I have already confessed this before. There's no shame in my game. I loved Pretty Little Liars, the TV show. I haven't read any of the books, but I love me some teen drama. I love the ridiculousness of it. I just found it like smart and funny, and just was like completely into it, completely into the mystery, even when it got ridiculous. I mean, I watched it to the bitter end. And in this show, 2 of the characters from that, Alison and Mona, and I have to say, sidebar, like Mona is probably my favorite character, show up in this show. It's fast forwarded, I don't know, however many years later, and they are both working at this kind of prestigious small town college it's out west. I want to say like they're in Oregon or something like that. And there's of course a whole host of new characters, and it opens with really kind of one of the kids, sort of the most popular, and his parents are heavily invested in the school, like they donate, and you know, their names are on buildings and all of this stuff, and he's just sort of this egotistical, all the bad typical things you would expect of this kind of a character, and he gets murdered in the first episode, and it becomes sort of this mystery, and kind of much like PLL, the other people from kind of his group, I would say, are sort of being taunted by the killer, and Alison and Mona are being brought into it. So it's sort of all the typical PLL things that you would expect, which I love and I'm completely down for. It's completely shameless entertainment. And I have to say, there's really good music in it. And I wrote down the Vitamin String Quartet is who does a lot of it. And one of the characters is supposed to play the cello. So I don't know if we're supposed to believe it's him doing it, but even it's like in the background. But they play like Lady Gaga and Queen and Coldplay, and it's just really good. So I completely found them on like Amazon Music, and I'm completely down for that too. But it is definitely like indulgent TV, just everything you would expect from Pretty Little Liars, but I am there for it. I am invested. I think there's a couple episodes left. It's also on Hulu, so you can watch it, get all caught up. It's one of the shows that like shows up the next day. So if you haven't watched it and you want to, you can totally catch up with this one. And then the last show, which I've really sort of been consistently watching, is Buffy the Vampire Slayer. And I am doing Slay Along, which is sort of a rewatching of Buffy. So every month you watch one season of it, sort of at your own pace, and then there's a live show at the end of the month for Buffy fans to sort of talk about everything. I haven't watched Buffy from start to finish in, I can't even tell you when, but this is a show that I absolutely loved. We just watched season 2 in April, so season 3 is starting now in May. Again, you watched it at your own pace. You can watch it it's another one that's on Hulu. It might also be on Netflix or Amazon. I'm not sure, I can't keep it all straight. But if you're a fan of Buffy, this is really fun because it's fun to just chat with people. I'll leave like the Twitter handle down below. It's hosted by a whole bunch of booktubers like Heather from Bookables and Mel from Mel to the Any and a whole bunch of other people. And it's just sort of great fun. And I'm enjoying it. I bawled my eyes out at the season finale of season 2. It still just rips my heart out every time. I'm very excited. I haven't started season 3 yet, but I need to hunker down and get into it, but it's just fun. It's just like great memories. Again, like the dialogue is great. The writing is so smart. The actors I love, like I just have such sentimental good feels, but it's definitely one of those shows, like season 1 was definitely campy and kind of finding their footing, and season 2 it definitely started to get darker. It gets progressively darker through the series if you haven't watched it, but I 100% think it holds up over time. There's so much going on in it. There's just so many, like I say, great characters. There's also, it's funny to see like actors who showed up in this and then like later showed up in other things, but I'm there. I am down for this one as well. So yeah, watched a lot of Buffy. I also did a little book buying, and like by little I mean 2 books, and I just couldn't resist. So I had mentioned in a previous, I think it was like a tag video, where I had talked about how I'd never read Harry Potter. And I feel like as soon as I put that out into the universe, like everywhere I turned, like something J.K. Rowling was like in my face. And I came across this biography of her. It was like this 2-hour thing on, I don't know, it was like some random cable channel. I think it was like Reels or something like that. And I wound up watching it, and you could not peel me off the couch. I was completely fascinated. And like I knew like a bit about her story. Like I knew that she was sort of like completely down on her luck, like really strapped for money, really just sort of like rubbing 2 pennies together. Wrote this book. Obviously it hit. She's like a billionaire now. And from a writer's perspective, it's like talk about things that dreams are made of. But I knew like snippets about her, but not that much. And this documentary had a lot of interviews with her. It obviously had tons of Harry Potter stuff, which didn't mean much to me in that I've never read the book. So I think some of that was like a little bit lost on me, but at the same time, it was so much the actors and her storytelling and the fanfare and just sort of like the, sort of the fame and how she grappled with it and all of that. But I was completely enraptured by it, and I went so down a rabbit hole on YouTube of finding videos and interviews with her. I had like heard her Harvard speech from years ago talking about failure, but had never quite, I think, listened to the entire thing. And it's just like everything hit home, and I just loved it. And I'm completely fascinated with her. And I watched a lot of interviews about when she wrote The Casual Vacancy. And I know a lot of people didn't like that book, and I still have like a ton of curiosity about it. It seemed very split, and I think some people were sort of like horrified that the woman who wrote Harry Potter wrote this more contemporary, gritty, like lots of sex, lots of language, lots of drugs, lots of drinking, sort of I think it's, you know, like a commentary on politics in Britain, and people just were not down for the ride, but other people were like, it's amazing, like it's a complete departure and it's so wonderfully done. And then she did her crime books under a pen name, Robert Galbraith, and eventually it came out that it was her. And then I thought, well, if I'm going to give her a go, I'm going to do it in the crime wave. So I did pick up The Cuckoo's Calling from Amazon, and this is the first book. It's a 4-book series at this stage, and I don't know too much about it other than that it got really solid reviews. Again, it's a crime mystery, which I'm completely down for. So supermodel falls to her death from the balcony of her London home. Some think she's committed suicide. Her brother has doubts. So Corman Strike is the private detective who's brought in to investigate. And I'm excited for this. I mean, obviously, her writing gets such rave reviews from Harry Potter, and even people I think who didn't like The Casual Vacancy as a book could not say anything bad about her actual writing. So this is me doing my first J.K. Rowling. I'm excited for it. And again, I'm just completely fascinated with her as an author, as a creative, as a woman, all of it. So like, I haven't even read the book yet, and I'm 100% a fan. So I went deep down this rabbit hole, and this is what I've come up with to start. Totally optimistic about it. And then the second book I picked up, which was based on a review from Mel to the Any, and it's Girls with Sharp Sticks by Suzanne Young. And this is a YA book. Suzanne Young has written a whole bunch of books. I've never even heard of her before. But Mel, the way Mel talked about this book with like such love and affection and moved and all of it, like I immediately like paused her video, went to Amazon, put it in my cart, and like went back to the video. So I'm really excited to read this, and I've seen it pop up in a few places since then. But it sounds kind of like Handmaid's Tale-ish, dare I say. And it's about a bunch of girls in what's called Innovations Academy. and they're beautiful, well-behaved, under the watchful gaze of their guardians. And it sounds like they're brought up to be obedient and not defiant and very complacent. And it sounds like some of the girls start to figure out what it is they're doing there and why they're being groomed the way they're being groomed and what eventually happens to them after they graduate from the academy, and they start to fight back. So a lot of feminism, a lot of power, a lot of empowerment, it sounds like. It's getting incredible reviews. The reviews I've seen from other booktubers who have read it have just talked so highly about it. So I'm really curious about it. I'm definitely going to be reading it this month. But I'll find Mel's video and link it down below so you can listen to her talk about it, because just the way she talked about this book, I couldn't not pick it up. Like, I was sold. I had to have it. So that's it for my neck of the woods and what's happening over here in sinusitis, allergy, cold head land. But let me know if you guys like this kind of mashup video. I thought it was, a good way to kind of mix a few things in, since I didn't have enough content for sort of individual videos on these topics. And I love to talk about TV and books and what's coming up. But I will be back soon. Thank you to everyone for watching today. Thank you to everyone who's new here today, for finding my channel, for hanging out, for subscribing if you've done all that. And I'll be back soon, and I will see you guys when I am. So talk to you guys soon. Bye.